the strangest feeling to know what to believe in. Cause every time you touch me, I can't control my body. Oh, baby, you are on my mind, all I think about, and I don't wanna stop.
From dating to relationships, from sex to love, from Christianity to politics, from darkness to light, you have now entered into the real zone. Welcome to Conversations with Trent, where no topic of conversation is safe from discussion. Now, here he is, Mr. Epic himself, Trent Williams.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another podcast episode of Conversation with Trent and Friends. We got a good one tonight, folks. We got a real good one tonight. Welcome to the B2G Unity TV network. That's Butterfly Evolution and Taylor Kennedy Media together, combined for better TV together. Good stuff, good stuff. We got a good one tonight. Coach Dee, the lovely Coach Dee, the Canadian, is in the wings waiting to come on. But before we do, here's the topic tonight. I was talking to Slash last couple of days, and we're going over, topics and whatnot. That's my secret weapon when I want to pull out something else, some thought-provoking stuff. I go to actually, getting in the background and speaking with Slash on different topics. He does a lot of research for the show behind the scenes for Coach Dee and I, for the gang. He does a lot of research and different topics to make sure that we're very competitive with these podcasts, and it's 1,000 podcasts out here over the world, and we just want to make sure we're competing at our very highest level. Good stuff. But the topic tonight: do as I say, but not do what I do. Do as I say, but not what I do. What do you mean, Trent? What did we learn about dating and relationships when it comes to marriage and whatnot, and how we walk through life? What did we learn from our parents? What do we witness in anything that we do? I truly believe that as adults, everything that we do, there are reasons why we do the things we do. And that's because of the things that we witness and the things we experience in our lifetime. I know it for me, I know it for me it has. But what we experience as kids and run around as adults carrying a lot of that stuff around. So let's bring Coach Dee in. Let's bring the trauma of it all in. Let's talk about it. Let's get to it. Let's have a healthy discussion. One sec. Coach Dee.
Hey there, how are you?
I am great. What's going on with you? How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. It's a busy Sunday. Xavier got a new scooter he was trying out. Yeah, he grew out of all the kid scooters, so he has like an adult scooter. It's called the Scooter.
Gotcha.
So we had it testing it out this weekend. So
Gotcha.
nice. Got brakes and a kickstand.
Good stuff. So I'm sure you've kicked that cold that you had, all that.
Yeah, I'm good.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Yeah, we had a good one last week, man. It was real hot. We got some good reviews off of that as well. Good stuff, man. Oh, I'll be remiss if I didn't thank the folks for tuning in right there on the B2G Unity Network. We appreciate you guys tuning in over there. Appreciate you guys on YouTube as well as Facebook and all that good stuff. And shout out to Black Lightning Trucking. I understand he's watching tonight. That's one of the proud sponsors of the conversation. Black Lightning Trucking. For all your logistical needs, blacklightningtrucking.com is the spot. blacklightningtruckingnola.com is the spot. Good stuff. So the topic tonight: do as I say, but not what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, what did we see? What did we learn about dating, relationships, marriage from our parents? I know for me, what we witnessed as kids in our household, everything about it shaped me as a man and drive my relationships, drive my past relationships. I was asking my father in those relationships. My father was a very charismatic, very suave type guy, and women loved him, and he knew it. And he was that guy. He was a wonderful caretaker, wonderful. Everything about him was he was a great father when it come down to taking care of the kids, everything. But as far as women, he was a beast with it, and I loved it, and I took it on. I took on his whole persona, and that's what I carried. That's what I took from that relationship. My father always say, "Hey, do what I say, do what I say, and not what I do." I didn't understand until now what he was meaning by that. But let's get down to the whole trauma of it all, D. I want to talk about how we walk through life in these relationships and how we actually interact with people on a daily basis is pretty much what we've seen in our lifetime, what we've gone through as children, what we've gone through and seen of our households, whether it be good or bad.
Yeah.
We're carrying around something.
Everybody does. And people who say they don't, they may be a little in denial. Because
Good stuff.
I firmly believe that by the time you hit my age, there's no way that you've not seen some trauma in this world. Even watching the news, all the school shootings is trauma.
Right.
There's no way you have not seen it. Unless you live in a bubble and off the grid and you've existed that way your entire life.
Exactly.
Then if you did, you wouldn't be talking to us because you wouldn't be able to see us on the show. So, right? But here's the thing. What our parents do doesn't affect us as much as what they don't do.
Gotcha.
There's a thing called the mother and father wound. And it's basically what your parents haven't done as you were growing up that provided beliefs about different things.
Right.
Right. So you can have, and this is not to say your parents are bad. Right. Nobody gives anybody a manual. We all mess up no matter how good we think we are. If somebody thinks they're a perfect parent, then they're messing up a lot more because I question my parenting every day. And anybody else who's doing the work will be questioning their parenting every day. Am I doing this? How am I doing this? And so if you have parents who are emotionally distant or don't give affection, that affects their relationships when you're older.
Let's say hello to the folks before we get started, because I had a couple of conversations over the past couple of days about this topic, and that was a hot topic. Slash, good looking out as always, brother. He's always researching for us in the background, and he loves to play a role in the background. I'm trying to get him to get on his mic and debate, do some healthy debating with the Disney princess, but the Coach Disney princess, as he called her. But still trying to work some things out.
Queen Kibby, I believe that's Martine. She says, "Hey there, I have to work early and I may fall asleep on you. I'm here though. Do what I say, but not as I do." And then Kathy chipped in, said, "Hi everyone." So thank you all for paying attention and listening. So
appreciate you guys.
Week.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Well, here's my mom and stepdad have been together since I was 4. So they've been together now 47 years.
Right.
But here's the funny thing. They didn't get married until a couple of years ago. And it's funny because me and my sister's like, why are you bothering getting married now?
Right.
But, and if anybody has a problem with me being too masculine and too independent, you can blame Mr. Pavlos because he taught me everything I know.
Again, like I said in the opening piece, what we witness as kids in our household is how we're moving in and out of these relationships.
Yeah.
For me personally, as for me, I followed my father's playbook down to the wire. When I say down to the wire, followed it playbook by play. And I failed miserably. In these relationships, I failed miserably. I did exactly what he did. I was mesmerized by my father's charismatic ways. I was mesmerized by him being a great businessman. I was mesmerized by this man.
Yeah.
To where I picked up everything from him. Like I said, he was a wonderful provider. And actually, the reason why Black Lightning Trucking exists is because of A. Williams Trucking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he laid the foundation. I just happened to take some of those toxic traits and run with them. So as as I became a man and as I started finding a higher level of myself and dealing with myself, after all these tragedies, I was like, hey, that's not my dad's fault that I picked this stuff up, because at some point I had to take some personal responsibility for this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had to take some personal responsibility for this stuff.
But here's the thing. Remember I said that most of your beliefs are set by the time you're 7?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So when you see this, your role model behaves in this way, that's a lot of people think that is the way they're supposed to behave, because that is what they see.
Yeah.
So it's when I tell people get mad at me because I tell them that an absent parent is better than an inconsistent parent. Because an inconsistent parent constantly brings trauma again and again and again and again and again. Because they're here, they're not, they're here, they're not. So the child is always questioning, do they love me? Oh, they love me now. Why don't they love me anymore?
So here's a quick chat. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. I had a quick chat with a wonderful friend, and she texted me, asked me about the topic, whatnot. So I shared the topic with her, and I told her, I said, man, I failed miserably in dealing with the playbook of Big Will, and I failed miserably. I dropped the ball completely. But one thing that she said that stuck with me, man, stuck with me. She said, lessons learned doesn't mean failure.
No.
That stuck with me, and I went to bed on that. I was like, wow, that's lessons learned doesn't mean failure.
No. I always
very profound. Very
profound.
I
always tell Xavier, if you learn from your mistakes, then it wasn't really a mistake.
Exactly.
What is it they say? You learn 100 ways of how not to do it.
Right.
Until you get it right.
That's right. That's right.
So many people focus on failure versus the learning that comes from something not going the way they plan.
But what I really wanted to get into when we talk about these relationships, because it just seems like, man, throughout, been for years on top of years, that people are plagued with this whole situation of pointing the finger, right? Mm-hmm. People are deflecting, pointing the finger outward, but not going inward with it. You got to take responsibility for some of that stuff, because at some point you were traumatized somehow in your childhood.
Yeah.
Even with like for me personally, I'll use myself as an example. We were a middle class family. My father made great money. My father had his own business, did well for himself. I still witnessed trauma. My brothers and I still witness trauma. Mm-hmm. And that's not a whole thing. Say, oh wow, all these guys. Nah. Every kid, whether they want to believe it or not, every kid now adult have witnessed some type of trauma. Mm-hmm. That's the only way you could actually get past this thing, man. Get over this hump of pointing the finger outward.
But we
take some personal responsibility. Start doing this inward.
Yeah, but we also never accept personal responsibility for the actions of others either.
That's true.
So
do tell. Dig a little deeper.
Because we have to remember that so often you'll see that people will, for instance, if somebody cheats, they'll blame the spouse that was cheated on.
Right.
Well, you must have done something to make them cheat. No, that's not how that works.
Right.
It's all about the person who did the action. You don't blame the victim for what somebody else does. So if somebody has been abused, you don't blame them for their abuse.
Totally agree.
You know, and I find people are too busy pointing at what has the person that has had something happen to them than the person that did the
act. Let's say this, right? Even with my 2 failed marriages, right? Mm-hmm. My 2 failed marriages, I didn't realize my part that I was the culprit in those relationships. I was the one pulling some of that stuff off until I started dealing with myself, until I started dissecting myself, until I went to the higher level of myself, started dealing with myself. I was like, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
Deidre wasn't always the problem. Deidre wasn't always the problem. Teresa wasn't always the problem. Some of that had to do with Trent. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Some of that had to do with Trent.
Yeah, we should take responsibility for our own actions, what we have done, what we have contributed to relationships.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing: when we're children and we're witnessing this, as children, we don't want to focus on the bad things our parents are doing.
Right.
We subconsciously focus on it, but consciously we ignore the bad things they're doing. Kids
dig a
will
little,
ignore
dig
their
a little
parents.
deep for the people in the back.
Well, here, if you have a parent who's in and out of a child's life,
Mm-hmm.
that child will still adore that parent no matter how badly you treat them,
Right.
moving in and out of their lives, because that's their parent.
Right.
Right? There's and here's the thing, and that ends up creating trauma on its own. That's why I tell people, if you're not going to be consistent in a child's life, that child's better off without you.
That's right. I could agree with that.
Because it creates abandonment issues. So then you have kids who grow up and have relationships where they have insecure attachments because their parents have abandoned them time and time again. They think that anybody they'll love will do the same thing.
I agree with that.
So those are your stage 5 clingers.
Look like we got some folks in here.
Slash says, Grand Rising Melanated people, greetings, Precious Coach D and Mr. Epic.
What up,
Good evening
Slash?
to the conversation viewers and listeners. Shan says, great evening, everyone. And
What up, Shan?
She said, absent is way better than inconsistent on any day. Yeah,
absolutely.
They've done studies on it because absent, you can explain to a child that the parent is they're not there, they're not in the picture. Right. It's a lot easier than explaining to a child, a parent who's in and out, in and out, in and out. Right? Because you should never lie to children about what's going on in their lives because they're little people. They have views and opinions and emotions and feelings. So always tell them the truth about what's going on around them.
Right. So let's talk about the deflecting, the pointing, right? For me personally, that's what I was doing with these 2 failed marriages. I was deflecting. I was pointing outward. I was woe is me. I was woe is me. Woe is me. Woe is me. It's their fault. It's their fault. I'm pointing outward. I never was. Not until I started taking personal responsibility for the toxin I brought to my own party was I able to actually point that finger inward.
Right.
Let's talk about that for a second. Let's dig a little deeper. Why do you think people deflect when they know they're the problem? When they know that they brought the Kool-Aid to the toxic, they brought it to the party, but they're not admitting it. They're not gonna take responsibility for the toxic they brought to the party.
It's hard to admit you're the problem, or you have a problem.
Exactly.
That's like why it's one of the first stages of getting over something. Like step 1, there's no problem if you don't admit there's a problem. That's why people will overlook things.
Exactly.
My computer's gonna shut off. That's not good. Okay. Yeah. So here's the thing: if you're able to pretend that it's not you, then it's a lot easier to go through life. Like, well, they were crazy. They did this. They did that. Until you look in the mirror and go, well, geez, I've had 10 ex-wives or 10 ex-husbands. Somebody's gonna say maybe it wasn't them.
Right.
Right?
For me personally, I walked around with rose-colored glasses on for a ton of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And want to blame outward, like with Deidre with the first failed marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing with me, the audacity of me to get married the following day, take a flight back to LA. But I thought everything was fine. Get married, took a flight to LA the next day. Like the next 2-3 days, I was back in LA after being married.
Yeah.
So I couldn't blame now. Back then, I used to blame it on, man, I was young and, chasing that California sunshine, all that. Nah, that was really toxic on my part. That was me following Big Will's playbook down to the wire. Mm-hmm. Again, that was me following Big Will's playbook down to the wire. But I didn't take responsibility for that. Right. I didn't take into consideration, wow, how would Deidre feel if I just get on this flight and just roll out?
Yeah.
Didn't even think about it. I just did it. Didn't even think about it.
Right.
But I was only able to accept responsibility for the toxins I brought to that party once I started dealing with myself. Once I started taking that pointing that finger and stop deflecting and going inward. Hey, man, well, Trent, maybe you was the problem.
Mm-hmm. So let me get in the comments because they're getting a little spicy in there.
Is that right? Good stuff, man. Appreciate you guys.
So Martine says, abstinence is way better than inconsistent any day. Hey, Shan. Then Slash says at Queen Kobe, I disagree. 2 parents are better than 1. Often parenting is predated by questionable relations. situationships, relationships, and marriages. And Queen
So
says, not if
Slash is
that parent,
disagreeing. He's saying he's disagreeing.
yeah, it's not if that parent is whack. Shan says acknowledgement is the first step. Martine says there are many who love to brag about how they're the products of a two-parent home, even though they themselves are married with children. They're the most ancient people too.
Right.
It's not guaranteed that just because there's a two parents as well, there's somehow more stability. Except nah. And Slash says perfect attendance parenting may be considered of the 1% only God can judge. There's no classes or correspondence courses on parent. There are classes, sir. I teach classes on parenting. Often the main parent is overwhelmed doing it solo dolo. So here's the thing. There's lots of studies on two parents homes versus one parent homes. The difference is it has to be two equally involved parents. And that doesn't happen as often as people think it does. So you can have two parents where only one parent is doing the work.
I lost you guys there for a second. This is the main folk. I apologize to you guys. I looked like I was about to lose power in the studio, so I apologize if it kind of hiccuped.
Where did I leave off? Did you hear me from answering perfect attendance?
Just a little bit because I lost power for a second.
Okay, bring up Slash comment again then. Okay, Slash says perfect attendance parenting may be considered the 1%. Only God can judge. There's no classes or correspondence courses on parenting. I said, yes, there are courses. I teach them. So there are lots of classes on parenting. Only the main parent is overwhelmed doing it solo. Often the main parent.
So what is he? I want to dig into. What is he disagreeing on? He's disagreeing that
he thinks that two-parent homes are better than one-parent homes. And I disagree with that because it has to be two equally involved parents. You can have two parents when only one parent is doing everything.
Yeah, see, my situation was a little different when we talk about two-parent homes. We thrived in a two-parent home when we were together with my father and my mother. But the moment that split took place, we wanted to be back with both parents. Yeah, honestly, we wanted to.
Can you take the comment down? Here's the thing. A healthy two-parent home is great.
Right.
A two-parent, just because you have two parents, it does not necessarily mean it's healthy. It does not necessarily.
I agree. I totally agree because that was a total difference with our situation because before the trauma, we were great. We were good. Everything was fine. Everything was hitting on all cylinders. Mm-hmm. But after things started going left, it was bad. So were we better off without, with the toxins being removed from the home? Yes. So I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah. Because what happens is if that you stay in a relationship just for the kids, you've just taught the kids how you're modeling a toxic relationship.
One more time for the people in the back who didn't hear you, because I totally agree with do not stay in a toxic situation because you're only harming the kids. I just had a conversation with a good friend of mine whose brother left and he had moved in with his sister, right? Mm-hmm. And, for a couple of days, like I've been knowing this guy for almost 40 years. And I was like, hey, he's gone? She said, yeah, he's gone now. He's going back to the house because he's going back for the kids. I'm like, what kid? Them grown ass kids? Mm-hmm. He's going back for the grown ass kids? That don't make no sense to me. That makes no sense to me going back to a situation for kids. You're going to make them miserable and yourself miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. And if the kids are grown out of the house, why are they going back? If the kids are grown, they can understand.
That's exactly what I told her. I said, it's not for the kids. And he's like, he has a real great relationship with his son. Like he has a great relationship with his son. His son is like, his son just turned 19 and he's still at the home. But I said, it's not for his son that he's going back. You know that, right? He's going back because he's not through with that situation.
Yeah, because at 19, you can have conversations with them and understand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like I told her, I said, he's going back because he's not through with that situation. He still has some conversations he needs to deal with. He still has some things that he needs to discuss and deal with. He's not going back for that boy.
Yeah.
At all.
So Slash says, can you bring Slash's comment up?
Which one?
The last one. It says,
Gotcha.
ma'am, I'm referring to my family background. There wasn't parenting classes back in the day. Actually, there were. Dr. Spock existed for a reason. My comment wasn't in reference to inconsistent parenting. Both parents are better than just one. Yeah. There have been people who focus on parenting classes since the 60s. There are plenty of books out there on parenting since the 60s.
So again, bring me up to speed because I lost power here at the studio. What is Pat? What is he disagreeing with?
He says that two parents are better than what was the comment? I don't know if he's actually disagreeing. I don't think he realizes he's agreeing with us. He said, I disagree. Two parents are better than one. Often parenting is predated by questionable relationships, and marriages.
Yeah, I'll agree that two parents is better than one, but let me infuse myself into this again.
Mm-hmm.
As far as with my first match with Deidre, it was better for me to leave the home because I was the toxic one.
Mm-hmm.
I was super toxic, and that wasn't good for Taylor at all. So I don't believe that if I stayed in the home with Taylor, it wasn't good for her.
Yeah.
It wasn't good for her.
Yeah, and you could be good parents apart.
Exactly.
As good as you are
Totally
together.
agree.
That's why I have co-parenting. You know,
Totally agree.
People don't want to talk about co-parenting because they want to talk about child support.
But here's the thing, though. When we talk about co-parenting, successful co-parenting only happens when you own your own shit.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take personal responsibility and deal with your own shit before you can become a great parent of co-parenting.
Mm-hmm. And you have to be the adult. You have to be an adult. You know?
Exactly.
So, but here's the thing. So there's so many people who, and I see it all the time. I'm like, it's ridiculous. Some people will bring in step parents, and the step parent will try to take over as the mother.
Say that again. One more time for the people in the back.
The step parent will try to take over as that parent.
That's a no-no.
Yeah.
Step parents taking over for the parent, that's a no-no.
Yeah, I was in one group, and the stepmother called the child's mother her bio mom.
Wow.
And I was like, you are way out of your lane, lady. And she was quite proud of this. She goes, no, I'm not. I'm like, exactly. Yeah, that woman gave birth to that child. That child lives with her 80% of the time.
And this is why I totally 1000% disagree with the new person coming in, filling in someone else's shoes. No, man. Mm-hmm. Know your place, know your role, stay in your role. Yeah. Stay in your role. But the person who actually bringing that person into the relationship, whether it be a male or female, they're responsible for setting the ground rules. They're responsible for setting the ground rules. Period.
Ground rules and boundaries. Yeah. Ground rules and boundaries. Slash says, that's why I stated after parenting is predated by questionable relationships, and marriages. Also, I'm not going to judge anyone going back and trying to do the work firsthand.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So here's the thing with children pay attention to a lot more than people realize. People have a tendency to ignore that children are small individuals with their own brains because some people make their children an extension of themselves.
Absolutely.
Kids see all this nonsense.
That's right.
Okay? They may not say anything when they're growing up. Like you'll see it in a lot of divorced parents.
It's going to come up though. A lot. Hey, let me tell you something, man. A lot of my father's issues popped up in my relationships. And I'm more than sure popped up in my brother's relationships. Whether it be Greg, Lightning, or Alvin. I guarantee it did.
Yeah.
I guarantee it did. A lot of my father's issues popped up in those relationships.
Yeah, you mimic their communication style or their lack of communication style.
Exactly.
You mimic their confrontation, whether they confront people or whether they're people pleasers. You end up with you trauma bond to people if you were in mentally or emotionally.
One more time, I want you to actually dissect and bring into that trauma bond. Tell the folks what you mean when you talk about trauma bond. Black Lightning Trucking has showed up in the. Hey, this is a moment, bond, folks. This is a moment. In 1 second, talk about the trauma bond. We'll talk about Black Lightning Trucking. Go ahead.
Trauma bond is a cycle. how you build a relationship with somebody, and it's very specific to a lot of people. If you've been in an abusive relationship of some type, or you were abused as a child, quite often you'll end up with a trauma bond because that's the style of relationship you know, right?
Exactly.
And this is where all the different relationship attachment styles come from. So
Good
that's
stuff.
why I tell people they have to figure out what their attachment style is before they start going out looking for relationships.
Let's go to Black Light and Trucking comments. As Black Light and Trucking is actually in the comments, it's a proud moment for me. Go
He
ahead.
said, I was a stepdad for years, and I still have a father and son relationship with my son. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to speak on that for a while. He brought it up. I'll speak on it. He came into Richard's life at 2, maybe 3, I believe. And he still has a great relationship with that child. When I say child, I'm talking about real phenomenal relationship. So yeah, he did well with that. Real well with that. Go ahead.
Yep. And we have Facebook user, I think that's Kathy. Parenting styles are different from our parents. However, as of today, relationships and marriages are different. I was a single mom in both of my failed marriages. My older son has not lived in the home with his dad. All he has is me. My younger son father is very active in his life, which is a blessing. We work better as co-parents versus husband and wife. Yep, not everybody should be together. Some people are better as friends afterwards. Right?
Let's touch back on this talking about the step parents, right? As far as my brother with this stepson, the approach that he took to his stepson's life, he didn't try to become Richard's father like that. But Richard was with him the majority of the time. So he was very present. That was the actual good side of Big Will that my brother took from Big Will. Because when I tell you he parented that boy through everything. School, everything. First car, everything. Did everything for that boy. So that's the good side. That was the good side of Big Will that he took.
Right.
So that was different remnants that was going out through, different remnants and residue that was going out through the Four Horsemen. The different remnants going out through that actually, along with Carlton as well. So Carlton took on some bad trade as well, just like I did, as we all did. But again, that's one of the best traits that Torrance took from Big Will was how to parent that child. So he did a good job with that. So that's a double-edged sword to that, but it depends on, like I said in the opening piece, what we pick up as kids in the household and what we see. So that's one of the qualities he picked up. I just happen to pick up the womanizing ways.
Yeah. And Margie said, yes, lots of people think children aren't smart as intelligent. Later in life, they'll hurt your feelings with questions of odd childhood memories back when the parent were fronting. And then Coach Dee, that's so true. Trauma bonds are real. And then Slash said, can you bring Slash's comment up? Let's not skip over one parent bad mouth and the other trying to poison a child against a parent. We never skipped over that.
No. He's just he's adding that to the conversation.
Oh.
Yeah, he's adding it to the conversation.
We haven't skipped over that, sir.
So let me add that in. Thanks for the alley-oop, Slash. Speaking on how the parent badmouth the other parent, right? So when my second wife, when we parted, entire story was told. Her entire story was made up on why Dad wasn't there. When Dad left, it was like Dad's going to work. Because as you know, D, you actually there with me when Kenny was with me at that early stage. Teresa and I wasn't even together. But when it was time for me to move away and move on, she was telling Kennedy I was going to work. I was going to work. Kennedy didn't find out the truth until Four Horsemen was published. Not the fourth chapter of the Delta was published. And Kennedy went on her own, went on Amazon, purchased the book, and read the story, and we had problems that we had to deal with at that point as parents. We had to deal with that because Kennedy did not want to live with her anymore. So she shipped her to me. And we had to work that through. And this is where the co-parenting started taking place. Once Kennedy moved back with me, we had to work through that. And we had to co-parent together.
Yeah, because you both
Kennedy took issue. She took serious issue with her mother lying to her all those years about where her dad was and why he wasn't there. Because all she remembered, like you remember, Kennedy and I together at the house. Just us. And all of a sudden, Dad's gone. So a different story was told.
Well, why didn't you tell her your story, sir?
That wasn't for me to tell. That wasn't my story to tell.
Your side?
I wasn't gonna bash Teresa.
It's
now, you of all people, hold on a second.
Yeah, listen, it's not about bashing. You can't say one person lied and then say I didn't, and you not tell your story, and then have this.
It wasn't for me. It wasn't. Once Teresa told that story, I'm not that type of guy to just do it like that. And I wasn't gonna. It wasn't my story to tell. It wasn't everything that she told Kennedy. She was gonna have to fix that. I knew it was gonna have to take place down the line. Right, I do it now. You were there. You were there during that transition.
And I very specifically told you that you had to tell your side.
Yeah, you did.
And you didn't. And then you waited until the book came out.
Did I not refuse? Did I not refuse?
Yes, and I'm still mad at you about that because you could have saved that little girl a lot of trauma.
That's true. So, now I know. Not because I have the tools now. Now I know. I understand exactly what you were saying all those years ago. But
so that's what I'm still saying it. That was wrong.
Okay, I get it. I get it. But like for like with Teresa, when she called me and she was like, "Well, LeBut's she's gonna have to move back with you." I'm like, "What? What's going on?" She's like, "Well, she got a hold of the book." I was like, "Okay." So she was like, "Well, she know now." I was like, "Well, some of that you're gonna have to deal with. Some of that stuff you're gonna have to take on. You got to take on some of that. I'm not gonna carry that burden by myself. I've carried this burden for all these years by myself. You got to co-parent this thing with me." And we did, and we got over it, and we got through it. But good stuff. But you're right, D. So, Coach D has been telling me this stuff for 1,000 years about Kennedy should know what happened and all that good stuff. She did tell me years ago when Kennedy was 3 years old. She was like, "Hey, she needs to know. She needs to know." I refused. So, Coach D was right. I was wrong.
But Kennedy is an absolute sweetheart. So
she absolutely is.
Yeah, she is an absolute sweetheart.
Good stuff.
I don't know how she survived with a daddy like you, but anyway, I won't tease you anymore. But here's
I appreciate that.
Here's the thing. I laugh at there's so many people who get stuck, and especially if they're in abusive relationships, because that abuser will find somebody else, and they'll use that person to abuse as well. And so then you get these kids stuck in the middle who love both parents and are torn because they don't know who to believe, because they've seen what their parents do. So they've seen the reaction, they've seen it, but because they're trauma bonded, they can't get out of that cycle yet until they get help.
Hey, these comments are lighting up in tonight, man. I really appreciate it. I'm smiling tonight. Not only my brothers, I see Ursula, she's in there as well. I see Pat, my brother's best friend, he's in there as well. What up, Pat? Blessings to you, brother. I see you. Good stuff.
Yeah. And Shan said, "It wasn't your lie to clean up. I get it." I don't want to mess up your name, sir. Abdisi?
Yeah, that's Abdisi. That's a Pat. Abdisi? Just call him Pat.
Okay, Pat. That's blessings. Shan said, "But you shouldn't have corrected it and told your truth." Yep. Slash said, "And so Big Mama had already raised kids and wasn't going to let her how to." Can you pull that up, see?
Hold on one second.
Okay, also, so Big Mama had already raised kids and wasn't going to let anyone teach her how to rear grandkids. We as a family, people raised kids how they were taught, point blank, period. Yeah, sir, that's called generational trauma. That's what we're trying to stop.
Yeah,
right.
Slash, I have to agree with on that. That's called generational trauma on that one.
Daddies try to. Yes, they do. I know some really good men have been treated badly, and
what the beautiful Ursula's saying tonight. Hey, I saw you doing your Zulu thing, Ursula. You look good, girl.
She said, "Daddies cry too."
Absolutely.
Queen Kimmy says, "Hey, everybody." Slash says, "Maybe Maybe in Canada to Mr. Epic and the viewers, where were their parenting classes and by whom? My daddy's from Virginia, sir. I have dual citizenship. I was just raised in Canada. Y'all forget that. You want me to go back to the history books? I will pull up parenting classes for you.
Now, what did he say? I can't see his comment. Tell me what he said again.
He said, maybe in Canada to Mr. Epic and the viewers, where were these parenting classes and by whom?
He's always giving me flack on. He think that the numbers that you're getting and everything, that the research that you're pulling up, they're pulling up from Canada.
It's from Google. I don't pull up. Actually, don't use Canadian resources at all because.
Hey, Slash. Now you're gonna have to agree. We have to come up with a deal, man. Where you come on and grab on this, get on this mic, man. You gotta come on and do a healthy debate with the Canadian. The princess, the coach.
Facebook user, I think that Kathy says you don't have to bash anyone, just be truthful about the situation. Granted, they are younger and there are certain things maybe.
Yeah, but for me,
to hold them out.
For me, I was still loyal to Teresa by a fault. I was still loyal because that trauma, I had a trauma bond with her, and we went through a whole bunch of stuff together, as you know, D. We went through a whole bunch of things together, and I just did not want to drag her through that. And how crazy is that, right?
Yeah.
Even though she did it, I didn't want to drag her back through that. I didn't want her to make her look bad to her daughter.
Right.
So that was still some type of loyalty that I didn't want to do that to her.
Well, that's because good people don't want to make other people look bad.
Exactly.
But here's the thing: the kids know already.
And honestly, and I'm going to say this, and this is the perfect time for me to say this. She and I have had this conversation. One of the reasons why I didn't drag her through the mud and all that stuff, everything that we were going through, let me tell you something. Postpartum is real. I lived it. I walked through it with this woman and everything. She was diagnosed very late, very late. So some of the stuff that she was doing, that wasn't her. It wasn't her. And I couldn't just add insult to that, knowing her situation, her diagnosis. I knew what was going on with her. So that's one of the reasons I kept it out of the book, because again, that wasn't my story to tell. Yeah. But one of the reasons why I didn't push forward and kept going with it, and I kind of, pumped the brakes on certain things, because I knew what was going on. I knew why she was doing the things that she was doing.
Yeah. And this is why people will tell you to, if the relationship going in, is you have to sit down and talk to the kids about what's going on, because kids will blame themselves.
Exactly. Well, as you know, I mean, come on, D. How could Kennedy was what?
But that's what kids do. Kids will do that. My son, when he was 4, I caught him in his room singing, "I hate X so and so is a poopy head," because that's who his daddy was talking to on the phone with all the time, and using him as an excuse. You know what I mean?
Right.
So kids pay attention. Kids know.
They do.
And too often we don't give them the benefit of the doubt. Kids will make their choices later on. Like you'll hear.
But the gentleman in me, even though I was a mess in my early years, I was a mess. But the gentleman in me, I could not kick this woman when she was down with an illness. I couldn't do that.
It's not about kicking them when they're down. It's just talking about, listen, Mommy and I aren't going to be together anymore. Daddy's going to be here. Mommy's going to be here. We both love you. But it'd be better for you if we don't live together.
Right.
And we both love you. It's not your fault. Just that conversation. You don't have to get into the adult stuff. You
exactly.
Talk to them on a kid level.
You're absolutely right. Look like Shan's coming up. What's she saying?
I have to agree to. Can you pull up the thing? So I have to agree with Mark with the point on the parenting class. Our people didn't go to classes to learn how to raise their kids. That wasn't something that was promoted or readily available to us. It was.
Hold on a second, Shan. Wait a minute, Shan. It takes you to be in the comments it takes you to be in the comments to agree with Slash. What's going on? Just come on back and grab the mic and get back to things as normal. What you doing? Go ahead. I'm just joking.
Oh, I said, y'all act like I'm not black sometimes. Churches taught people how to raise their kids. On the altar all the time, the pastor was telling you how to raise their kids, what to do with their kids.
With Slash talking about generational trauma.
Bring it up, because
it's up. I just pulled it up. You see it?
Yeah. Generational trauma. I've never revealed anything about my family upbringing. Sounds like an Olympic false start in judging without having a black robe on. Sir,
Hold on,
do you
Slash. Though, wait a minute,
understand
Slash.
how
Wait a second.
much work I have done on generational trauma and black families?
So wait a minute. So Slash, are you disagreeing that generational trauma exists? I mean, I don't understand. Well, what's he saying?
Shan says, kind of like how many of our folks acknowledge mental health. Pulled up. Kind of how many of our folks acknowledge mental health issues or sought treatment back in the day. Yeah, the lack of treatment. Right. We didn't. Right. Nobody sought mental health treatment until recently. We have a people have been reared from the griot and the oral tradition where a village helped raise his kids. Yes.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Even within that village, you still have some type of trauma in that village. You still could actually experience some type of trauma within that village. So that's just because there was a whole village of people raising these kids, don't mean that they didn't see any trauma.
Yeah, and prior to colonialization, how we as Black people raise our children is completely different to now.
Totally different.
Thanks to colonization and ensuring that our families were broken up and that our families endured trauma. I'm not talking about churches providing assistance, speaking on professional help such as what you do. There have been parenting coaches. Here's the thing. Even now in 2023, people, when I say I'm a parent coach, people go, oh, we don't do that. That's a white people thing.
Right.
I'm like, you know what? Like, it's nonsense. I talk to people all the time whose first thing they have to get over is the fact that they're looking for parenting help. Right. Because Big Mama didn't need help. Her mama didn't help. Nobody needed help.
And I'm truly glad that we opened this discussion up on this, because there is actually a serious plague in the Black community, but not getting help, man.
Yeah.
That's an issue within itself.
Yeah, we talk about
that's an issue within itself.
Mental health within the Black community not reaching out for help is killing her.
That's an issue within itself, man. And acknowledging it is a part of healing.
Yeah.
Acknowledging it is a part of healing. That's how you move forward.
Yeah.
Acknowledging it. So we can't just place these things like Slash not gonna agree to disagree on the whole village thing, because within that village you still have trauma, because a lot of people, how many times have you seen folks in that village, something happened to one of those kids, and we're gonna put this on the table here. In that village, one of those kids gets molested, and that entire village don't say anything about that molested kid, about their molester.
No,
the ones who's doing the molesting.
Yeah, they'll protect them.
That's a whole bunch of trauma.
Yeah, and then they'll tell the girls to make sure you're properly dressed because so and so is coming over.
Exactly.
Don't leave your kids with so and so.
That's their help. That's their help for it. That's their help. Hey, make sure you don't dress something revealing, protecting this scumbag.
Yeah.
From that little girl.
Yeah, and
that's how Black people deal with their trauma.
Yeah, and then people are like, well, Dee, we don't need parenting help. I'm like, really? I was at an event the other day, and Xavier is extremely well managed. Of course, he's raised by life coaches. Right. You know what I mean? He's empathetic and caring, and you know what I mean. He's very polite. And this lady come over. Xavier was off. Somebody fell, and Xavier went to check on them just to make sure they're okay. Right. And this lady goes, "Oh, you must keep a firm grip on him." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I believe in conscious parenting." She goes, "You don't beat him?" I'm like, "That child, I've never raised my hand to that child." And she goes, "Well, you need to discipline him." I'm like, "Why would I need discipline? You just told me of how great a child he is." Right. So I'm obviously doing something right. Why? There's multiple ways to discipline a child without hitting them.
Let's get the past comment.
That's the only way to do it.
Let's get the past comments real quick and pull it up.
Pat said, pull it up, because once it's in the corner, I can't read it. There are many, many ways to look at the things that are being discussed on this panel. Yeah.
I agree.
I don't expect anybody, if you don't agree with me, have at her, man. I don't disagree. I firmly believe that we should all have discussions about how kids are raised.
Exactly. And the trauma. And this is where, for the viewing audience, this is where the conversation has always been, as far as, that's why we call it the gumbo pot. Everybody throw their conversation into that pot. That's what makes it a great pot of gumbo. Everybody brings their own spices to the party. So it's a healthy debate that we're actually doing here. It's a real healthy debate. We like Slash and I sometimes agree to disagree all the time.
Yeah.
The majority of the time, Slash and Shan, Slash and D, they disagree all the time, but it's in a healthy manner. So yeah.
And like people say, oh, there was no parenting classes. I'm like, the Black Panthers have parenting classes. You know, you look it up. They're probably still online, some of the stuff that they talked about.
What Shan said.
Shan says, there may have been coaching, but nobody I knew in my community or family was seeking help for parenting. I didn't see anybody looking like me getting on any type of parenting training. Not saying that it didn't exist, it just wasn't talked about or really even made.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? So are we saying this because we're looking to our counterparts to present this stuff, the parenting stuff to us? Is that what you guys are saying? Because I totally disagree with that, because I'm not going to look to our counterparts for no type of programs when it comes down to my kids.
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying, Shan? Is that what we're saying, Mark? That we were looking for those type of programs for our counterparts? And you guys know, you two especially know what I mean when I say our counterparts.
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
There's just a disagreement. It's not a big deal. You know,
yeah, but I mean, but the thing about it is, that's last year. That's it. What did he say?
No, we are survivors of slavery, Jim Crow's civil rights struggle. We all have issues, but tell me about mine. I'm not telling you about yours, sir. I haven't said you at all. I said in general. I call BS. I could care how many patients Coach Dee has talked to or seen. Yeah, and that's the problem within the Black community. You have experts who've trained for years and years and years, and then you go, oh, I don't want to hear it. Well, don't hear it then. Move on. We're not. It's not my job to convince
my whole point about different parenting and all of that stuff, right? I truly don't believe that we have to look to our counterparts to do those things. We have educated folks within our community to deal with these things. We just have to talk about it, be open, be willing to be able to open up and talk to people like a Coach Dee or a Coach Tammy and all these other folks. You have to be willing and able to say things, say something, open your mouth and not even go ahead.
We need to stop hiding behind, we don't do that. We don't do that means our kids are committing suicide at atrocious rates. You know what I mean? We don't do that is such a cop out to
Pat,
not
something profound here. Let's pull that back.
Pat says a lot of families are broken. Sam says not at all. I know what you're saying about when you say your counterpart. Yeah.
There you go. Good stuff, Shan. I know you do.
Yeah. Okay, there's one comment before that, but I want to make sure I get that. Slash says, not every village, Black, or neighborhood had bad apples. I'm not with playing devil's advocate. It's never been all bad. Nobody said everything was bad.
I'm not saying that it's been all bad, but in the Black community, we will cover up some shit, Slash. Come on now. In the Black community, we will cover up some shit.
Come on.
We will cover up some shit. I'm into holding people accountable, man. Yeah. And just straight up holding them accountable. And in the Black community, we've covered up some shit. We've covered up. We have.
If you don't think so, talk to some girls or some women.
Let's get the Pat real quick.
Pat says, no, go down 2 comments.
Oh.
It's also in the village.
Right here?
Yeah. Also, the village and the elders in the village knew how to print the younger generation in the correct direction also, too. If they stood up for what is right and what you call is right. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. We have a lot of amazing elders who have been lights in many children's eyes who were helping kids that nobody else wanted to help.
I think the Facebook user is Kathy out of North Carolina.
Yeah. It says parenting comes from our community. Be okay with talking with somebody who looks like you. Yeah. Pat said, this is good discussion. Yes, in the Black community, my new things are covered. Many.
Boom.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, bro.
But here's the thing. I wish we didn't cover things up because a lot of kids get harmed.
Absolutely.
Generation.
Let me tell you something, man. And I'll be getting too personal here because that's not my story to tell. But I know of a situation that it was covered up. I know of a situation that was that could have been avoidable, but an entire family covered this thing up.
Yeah.
An entire family. So I know this firsthand.
Yeah.
I know this firsthand.
And then we'll
So
get
that
we'll
happens,
get the
but that's
victim's
a
help.
plague for the Black community. That's a black mark on us that we cover shit up. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But here's the worst part is that then the victims will get exiled.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. So that does take place, man.
Yeah. We need everybody needs to be responsible for our stuff.
Exactly. Right? What's Shan saying? I can't see it.
Yes, we have covered up lots of stuff and made excuses for it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. We've done amazing things. We've survived. We've survived.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Still. Newsflash, folks. Covering it up. That's a trauma within itself. Mm-hmm. Covering it up is a trauma within itself.
Yep.
Once we get to the meat and potato of things, we'll get it. Yep. Covering up is a trauma in itself. Yep. You ask yourself, like, it's wrong to cover it up. It's wrong. Mm-hmm. You should be asking yourself, well, why am I covering this up? Why am I protecting why am I protecting the offender, and why I'm not protecting this little girl? Innocent little girl.
I've gotten to that conversation many times at public events. And I've had people like, well, I don't want them to go to jail. I'm like, they raped a 4-year-old. They need to be in jail.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And people like, well, we don't, it's family. We don't, what is it? Snitches get stitches.
Yeah, let me tell you something, man. Straight up, let me tell you something. If it was a family member of mine touching any of my kids, murder was the case that they gave me, period.
Yeah. Shan says, Mr. Epic, please stop talking over and interrupting Coach D. Pat says, pull Pat's up. From the pedophile to rappers, from immediate family members, he could be a boy, girl or boy that be abused and sexually molested in pedophilia. Yeah. Slash has counterparts that speaking from what I've known, we weren't raised being taught by others. We had our elders, the village, and our church homes. And speaking of macros, not the micro. Okay.
I was trying to get an understanding of these parenting things that you and Shan was talking about. I was thinking. Now you guys corrected me that you guys were thinking about getting these programs from the counterparts. I got it. I get it.
And Pat just says sorry for the mistype. That's okay. No problem. But here's the thing. Even if you don't know about help or you don't know about the books that are available or any of that stuff, any of the Black groups over the years that have been doing work in our communities that have been assisting people who've been telling people different things. Even if you don't know any of that and you don't feel like things are right, then you still need to reach out.
We're up on 1 minute here, man. This hour has gone away real quick.
Oh my God, it's 9 o'clock.
Yeah, the engagement has been phenomenal. We appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for actually engaging. Great topic, by the way, Slash.
Yeah.
Topic comes from the wonderful.
And Slash says, what do we learn about our families about dating, courtship, relationship, and marriage? We learn, unfortunately, most of the time we learn the most toxic stuff. Because that's the stuff that affects us the most.
So I'll get to the teachable moments. That's him kind of nudging me toward the teachable moment. He's watching the clock. Okay. Good looking out, Slash. But my teachable moment for that. You want to go first? I'll go. It's up to you.
I'll go. So my teachable moment is when it comes to relationships, and you're looking back at how you were raised as a child and the relationships you viewed. Take a look at and figure out what your relationship attachment style is. Exactly. And what your love, understand who you are, like attachment style, love language, all this stuff, so that when you go into a relationship, you're prepared for how you will react to different things and how different things affect you.
Exactly. My teachable moment is, and actually I've had that teachable moment ever since I've found the higher level of myself and stayed there. My teachable moment was and still is today that I shouldn't blame my father for all the toxic traits that I picked up from him. At some point as an adult, I had to take personal responsibility for the toxins I brought to my own party.
Right.
So as I became an adult, it was on me to fix everything that was broken.
Yeah.
It was on
And
completely on me.
Yep. And we all, I don't care what you say. We all have toxic traits. I have
Exactly.
toxic traits. Everybody does. If they say they don't, then run away because that's a huge red flag.
Exactly.
Because there's no perfect people out there.
Exactly. And this is a good, healthy discussion again. And shout out again to Slash for bringing such a very profound topic to the table as always, like he's always doing. And thank you for debating me on his topics and all that good stuff. So, it's all love on this side.
Yep. Oh goodness, Martine. Yeah, maybe that's a good topic we should have. So here's Martine's comment. There are two young ladies I know who are molested by their mom's new husband. They both got pregnant by him, and she didn't divorce him or report him. She got the pregnancy terminated, and when the oldest one got pregnant a second time, oh, can you?
So he was doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I just can't read it if she reported him or not. The last comment. Yeah, she finally reported him after getting pregnant a second time. Yeah. Wow. So here's another
example
of choosing the spouse over the kids. Exactly. So this is a big issue with new marriages where they're blended families. Is that we're not on the same side, sir.
What's Slash say? What did he say? What he say?
Slash says, "Thank you, Princess Charlie. Thank you for coming into the winning team locker room. Knew it wouldn't take long now if I can get those light skin cookies I asked for." Anyway, ugh. So
Slash.
That's another conversation we should have about blended families.
Yeah, that'd be a great one. That'd be a great conversation
about parenting and blended families. That's what we need to have a discussion about. These days.
Now, Coach D was in coach move tonight, and you're throwing bricks, Slash. You're throwing bricks. Yeah, at that tail of the show, you're throwing bricks.
I've spent too many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours on this work for somebody to go, I don't believe.
So the last comment goes to my favorite Detroiter.
Oh, she just mentioned pull up. He went to prison, and the mom ended up having a baby by him. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, those poor girls. Wow. And it happens all the time.
Good stuff. Hey man, this has been a great topic, great engaging topic. So I'm excited to look at numbers on the back end on the B2G and see what those numbers are. This is good stuff, man. Real good stuff here. So truly appreciate you guys tuning in. We truly appreciate it. A couple of announcements before I get out of here. I'll be on with Tammy on the B2G Unity Network on Tuesday. On Tuesday, we'll be talking about the topic over there. She'll be talking about on the Butterfly Show. Let's get to that topic real quick. 1 second. I'm sorry, folks. I should have been prepared for it, but I wasn't. But go ahead. Keep them talking real quick, Deez, till I get
That's all right. Going. So listen, when you have kids, they are paying attention. Just remember that even if you think you're slick, they still know what's going on. They might not ask questions, but they will keep it in the back of their head. And later on, as they get older, questions will be asked. Good and they pay attention. Kids know when you ain't shit.
Exactly.
Plain simple. And they will call you on it.
So like I said, I'll be on with Tammy on Relationship Table Talk, where last week we talked about Cupid is gone. Mm-hmm. Cupid is gone. So there's going to be a bleed over for Tuesday, 28th at 7:30. He has no intentions of loving you. Ooh. He has no intentions of loving you. It's on Relationship Table Talk with the wonderful Tammy Gate out of Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, goodness. That sounds like a conversation I had today.
Is that right?
Yes. A friend of a friend had somebody call me. And I said, and she told me she was a side chick. And I'm like, he's not divorcing his wife for you. Don't even think it. You've been dating for 3 years. The man ain't divorcing his wife.
Wow.
I'm like,
wow. Look like Pat saying something else and we're going to get out of here.
Oh, Pat says we need to have more discussions like this. Martine says, good night. Ooh, I'm going to need to struggle with the snooze button in the morning. And Slash is, we're not judged by our worst, like our counterparts mainly do. We are not to be judged by our worst. Okay. And Martine says, yes, children can tell when you're on that BS. Be truthful. Right. They're not going to ask the questions. It can be answered. It can't be answered. Yep. So, but
we're going to get out of here, folks. We're going to get out of here.
Xavier in the morning. So.
Yeah, Kobe needs a walk as well. So we're going to get out of here real quick. But we appreciate you guys, man. We really appreciate you guys. Hey, man, it was a great conversation tonight, as always. Great coaching, Coach D. Great coaching. We'll be back here on
Wednesday.
We'll be back on Wednesday with another topic. What you say you want to talk about?
I don't know, something spicy.
We'll do some spice. Hey, we'll do spicy if you let your hair down.
Okay, I'll leave my hair down. We'll do spicy.
Hey, Slash, you heard it, right?
I'll let my alter ego comes out. It's never a good
Slash,
thing.
shoot me something spicy, man. Shoot me something spicy.
All right.
Good stuff. So you guys, until Wednesday, Coach Dee and I appreciate you guys. You guys be epic.
All right. Bye.
Conversations with Trent in conjunction with Taylor Kennedy Media and your radio network would like to thank you for calling in and listening to tonight's episode. We hope that tonight's conversation offended you just enough to turn your mirror inward to come back for more. So until next week's conversation, be epic.